Okay. Oh yeah. So we're making some charcoal there, and we're using this this cone-shaped firebox, and I guess the shape of it keeps the oxygen off the charcoal on the bottom. So eventually the whole thing fills up with wood, and then you cover it with a piece of metal, and you're left with a whole big batch of charcoal.
Awesome.
Yeah, before, Sam, I used to make it just in the ground, you know, with a piece of tin, but I would get a little bit of dirt in the charcoal. So I started using the metal
It's cleaner.
basin to keep it clean for blacksmithing, you know.
Okay.
Keep all the dirt out of the
So this is charcoal we're going to be using in the forge later on. All right. So now we got the lid on there. What did you use as the lid, George?
It's just another piece of sheet metal. But it's got an angle iron all the way around, and that way it's a pretty tight seal.
Okay.
And once you let some of the volatile gases burn off, it'll just stay with charcoal at the end. Isn't that wild?
That's awesome, man. So basically the idea is that it continues burning in the absence of oxygen.
Yep. And then all the carbon that's left in the charcoal remains, but it cooks off all the volatile gases. And that way it makes a real nice clean charcoal for blacksmithing.
And tell us some other reasons why you like charcoal.
I like it for gardening. You can use the charcoal as a soil amendment. You can put it in the soil as like a 10% soil amendment, and it helps retain any nutrients and fertilizer that'll keep that from leaching out with any kind of watering when you water.
And you were telling me this is one of the few ways of sequestering carbon, right?
Yep. You can the carbon that stays in the soil, it'll stay there for, I think, even thousands of years after it's amended the soil.
So most of our modern day activities go in the opposite direction, but this is one of the few things we can do that reverses that carbon cycle.
Yep. And usually the wood that I make the charcoal out of, it comes from the national forest. I get a fuel wood permit to gather it. And so a lot of the wood that's out there that I'm picking up is leftover wood from prescribed fire treatments that the Forest Service has done as a ecological restoration projects.
Right.
So any of the wood that I've got from the leftover from the project has died from a prescribed fire or a thinning unit, and either that wood would just lay on the ground and end up back in the atmosphere as CO2, or in charcoal in the soil, then it's sequestered for longer than it would with a regular carbon cycle where it would just rot away. Because even like composted, you know, even making compost makes CO2 that goes in the atmosphere.
Right.
But charcoal in the soil can stay in the soil for thousands of years instead of 1 or 2 years.
And you were telling me also it has antifungal properties. It does a lot of good things to strengthen the soil against that type of...
Well, it actually is like a little house for microorganisms, bacteria and fungus. Will actually will live inside the charcoal.
Like a tiny coral reef,
Yeah.
At the microscopic level.
And that way it makes it more resilient from like the sun, baking the soil, or the soil gets exposed. Some of those microbes can die, but when you have the charcoal in there, it gives a apartment building for the bacteria to live in.
So they don't just get leached out when there's a big downfall.
Yep. And so it's really, the charcoal soaks up fertilizer as well as promotes a housing area for bacteria. So it's like a bonus, double bonus.
This is too cool, man.
Yeah, let's see if I can get some clamps here. Clamp it down just so let's stay a little more airtight. Yeah, I think the wild thing is like a lot of folks think, oh well, how are you sequestering carbon? You're making a bunch of smoke to make charcoal. Isn't that a counterintuitive to sequestering carbon? But whether you see the smoke or all that carbon just goes back in the atmosphere, that CO2 goes in the atmosphere just from decomposition, it's the same amount of carbon. So if you make it into charcoal and you sequester it in the earth, it's going to last longer than it would in the regular carbon cycle.
So it's a seemingly simple thing, but it has a very powerful environmental impact, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's low tech.
Right.
Super low tech.
Right.
I mean, they make all kind of machines to make biochar, like industrial style biochar kilns that they can bring out to the woods and, put biomass in and convert to charcoal, which then you can add nutrients and microorganisms, put it in the soil as a soil amendment. But this is like the old school kind of style, like the Amazonian.
Right.
Where you're making it super low tech.
Right.
That's something anyone could do in their backyard. It's not.
All that terra preta they made. I read they made as much as all of the British Isles. They created that much soil by burying charcoal
like
and
the old
debris.
School, the most sustainable agriculture practices ever, where they're mixing the soil types made out of broken clay pots, seashells, and probably some manure. I don't know if it's human manure or from livestock. But all of those huge cities in the Amazon basin, they had like sustainable agriculture practice with charcoal as like
as a fundamental.
Terra preta, their amazing soils,
This is so cool, George. Thank you for showing us this, man. So this is something we can all do at home, huh?
Yeah.
Low tech, good positive impact. And then you're gonna trip out when you see what this guy does with this charcoal in his forage. Right on. Thanks again, George.
Yeah, thanks.
Unity through arts and culture. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, dude, because I was thinking, like, watching this fucking, about the relief fund that failed and how they, like, we got the government, like, screwing us left and right. It'd be nice if we're teaching our kids and people education is the key.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like where people don't know how to make money, or people are like, limited by what other people think we should do with our time and our money and our efforts. But if we have higher education, even more like technical education, that frees people up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And like that's the way to restore the economy, is have people that have highly skilled, trades that they can do to make money. That's gonna, the way out of economic depression is for all the middle class, lower class to be able to have a higher education.
Yes, sir.
That's what supports the whole system, Not the 1% trying to decide whether they want to give us a fucking handout or not, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a scroll. We'll roll this up. Nice and tidy.
Beautiful.
Keep this up. This would be another fun one for the kids, Sam.
Nice. Beautiful.
Nice books for the hang the clothes up or whatever.
Yeah. Beautiful, man.